All right, so on the most recent Fighter and the Kid podcast, Brendan and Bryan were reminiscing about the old JRE Fight Companion days, and they're looking up some clips on YouTube of it, and while they're doing that, this classic happened to pop up. If you haven't seen this, I'm going to play some of it later, but it's basically Joe and Brendan calling out Bryan for always trying to act like a tough guy, and they think he hangs around too many people that bullshit each other, so he always gets away with it and nobody ever calls him out, and it almost feels like they're having an intervention for him. So when Bryan saw this clip the other day, he decided to address it and defend himself, and he claims in this video he was doing some kind of bit and he was just trying to be funny, and Joe didn't understand that and he took him way too seriously.
Oh yeah, that was when I was fucking joking about what I do to somebody, and Rogan took me seriously. Remember when I said I'll show up at your house and
but sometimes you'll be doing a bit, and I know it's a bit because we speak the same language
Yeah.
for over 10 years now.
Yeah.
I'll know it's a bit, and I'll entertain it.
I was about to come at you. I was about to go, and you show up at my house.
I know.
The bit was, and I'll you up.
But he cut you off
cut
there.
me off, and he goes,
So it looks
No, I've seen the
serious.
clip, and I again, the way you get cut off, it's
I just saw the clip, and it said, I saw that people were taking it seriously.
it's interesting to
So they also talk about how Joe just doesn't like to goof around as much as they do, and he's not silly enough. Like Brendan says silly like a billion times right here. But yeah, they understand that jokes do fly over Joe's head sometimes, and he doesn't understand when people are messing around, which is true. I made a whole video about that. But in this scenario, it didn't really seem like a bit to begin with. It sounded like Bryan was trying to turn it into a bit once they called him out for it. And it sounded like this is a reoccurring thing, which it is. I mean, Brendan and Bryan have had massive arguments about who's tougher. Like, Bryan takes this shit seriously. I made a whole video about it. And in some of the clips, maybe you could say he's joking or exaggerating. But for the most part, you could tell he believes what he's saying. And he thinks he's like the toughest person ever. But I don't think Brendan even remembers this clip that well. Because in the clip I just played, Brendan's acting like he knows when Bryan's joking and he knew it was a bit. But as you'll see here, Brendan completely agreed with Joe when he called out Bryan, and it just seemed like they're both getting annoyed with it.
He was looking.
You know
down
what happened
there.
to me? I got bullied for a full year, and it turned me into a. If somebody tried to bully me, I'll show up at your house and kill you. That's what happens. I get so angry.
I'm not buying that
hate when
even
he talks
remotely.
like that. I hate when.
Hey,
That's
bro,
not true.
You bully me.
If I
You know what
you
your
try
problem
bullying me
is,
right
bro?
now,
You know
motherfucker.
what the problem is?
Hold on, let me
Here's
handle
your
this.
problem. Here's your problem. You've talked to too many guys that let you say shit like
agree.
that, and then it becomes like vernacular.
No,
it becomes like a part
this
of
is
the way
what
you
I
talk.
do. This is what I do. Brian,
make
You
Look,
know,
hold
all
on,
those
he's got
people
something to say.
that when I first met you, all those
Yeah.
people you used to hang around with,
Yeah.
those are all toxic, and they've ruined the way you're allowed to communicate with people.
No. It's true.
Because they
No.
said stupid shit, and then you said stupid
If
shit,
somebody
and it was
fucks
okay.
with me, bro, look at how my. What do you have to say to me?
bro, I watched a scary movie with
I'm
him.
gonna have to leave. I'm gonna have to shut this podcast
Hold on,
off.
not yet.
Run
Not yet.
away.
We have to. Hold on.
I
not
watched
yet.
a scary movie with him, and it was the most annoying thing
Tell you
ever.
what,
He
I would
goes,
f-
"Oh,
this
I
guy."
fucking wish a demon would grab me, man. You know what I would do?" And I'm like,
I get mad.
"Why are you talking to me
It's
like
not
this?"
that you get mad. It's that you hang around with people for a long time. You hung around with people that allowed you to talk like that.
No.
Without mocking you.
Who aren't
No.
tough. Who aren't tough.
Ruthlessly.
Bros.
See, right when Bryan says, "I'll show up at your house," both Brendan and Joe instantly are like, "Oh God, this again." Unless Brendan's doing a bit here too. Maybe he is an amazing comedian and he knows Bryan's doing a bit, so he's playing along with it by acting like he's not doing a bit or something. No, but you could tell Brendan's heard this enough and he's just annoyed by it at this point because they probably heard this a billion times. I mean, the Fight and the Kid YouTube channel has volumes of Bryan's fight stories. I remember one time he chased around some teenagers with an axe handle or something. And then another time him and Brendan were arguing about who's been in more fights. I think I have that clip in this video, but you could tell Brendan is so fed up with it. Like, he's just done. Because, I mean, he fought in the UFC. He's the fighter in the Fight and the Kid. Bryan is the kid. It's so funny. The fighter wants to be a comedian, and the comedian wants to be a fighter. So in the clip I just played, I think once Joe called out Bryan, then Bryan tried to turn it into a bit. So you could be like, "Oh, I'm just messing around. I'm just trying to have fun." But Bryan talks about getting into fights and being a tough guy all the time, and he's definitely being serious. So even if he's joking here, he actually believes this. And like Joe says in the video, it's not all just about Bryan trying to act like a tough guy. It's about calling him out on his bullshit because he hangs around too many people that let him get away with saying whatever he wants because those people do the same thing. So while Brendan and Bryan were talking about this recently, they also were talking about the last time they did Joe's Fight Companion. Because if you remember, Joe told Bryan to shut the F up a few times. And one of those times was when Bryan was trying to promote his toe holds. And I guess that's a bit too.
Even on the last campaign, which we finally got together in Austin,
Yeah.
and then when you're like, "I'm not very good at promoting," and you kept plugging yourself. Like,
Yeah.
that was a bit of a bit.
Yes.
I know this, so I can joke on it.
Yeah.
And Roman was like, "Shut the fuck up, know the."
All right, so this, I guess, could be a bit. I really don't even care. I just thought it was hilarious, though, either way.
Put your toes on.
Say,
Take those off.
shut the
Take those
drugs off.
Listen to him.
Listen to him.
Come
So
on.
silly.
Well,
I know
the
you
way
want
was-
to promote your goofy
I'm
flip
not,
flop.
I'm not promoting him. I just got
You don't even
for
call
you.
them toe holds.
Feel him under your
Put your
feet.
toe holds on.
Feel him for you. Feel him under your feet.
See, Brendan's right. Joe isn't silly enough. Like you just said, Brian's being too silly here.
Most of the time,
Yeah, he's serious.
not
It's
silly
a
like
heart
we
attack.
are. Like you and I are silly.
So maybe Brian is doing a joke here, but it still sounds like it could be an annoying joke, like just constantly begging Joe to promote your toe holds or whatever. And also, if this is a joke, I don't know why Brian wasn't just like, geez, why do you have to take it so seriously? Like, I was just messing around, okay? Like, if you don't like it, then I'll stop talking about it. Instead, he just like sat there all quietly. It sounded like he backed down from him. And that doesn't seem like the tough guy he claims to be. So maybe this tough guy thing is a bit. Or he's just scared of Joe. That's what it seems like, because he says all this stuff while he's on his own podcast. But when he's on Joe's and Joe tells him to shut the F up, he just has nothing to say to him. And if I remember correctly, Joe told him to shut up a few times. So I think he's just scared of Joe. I mean, Brian had no problem calling up Bobby Lee when he thought he was running the Fight in the Kids subreddit. He had no problem calling him up and threatening his career and trying to destroy his life and flipping out on him. But then Joe tells him to shut up multiple times and he just goes quiet and has nothing to say about it. It seems like he's just really scared to upset Joe. That's what I think, at least. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Then hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you at the next video.